Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 9, Overall 504 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated in the city of Guelph since 1969, and yours truly has been a customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolets for the last 25 years here in the city of Guelph. And Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been a major sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show for the last 2.5 years. So if you're looking for a new or used vehicle, check out Barry Cullen Chevrolet again in the Guelph Auto Mall or barrycullen.com. I hope everyone is doing well on this Monday, March 3rd, 2025. This is going to be my 7th show with 9 guests in the last 8 days, but I'm excited to have him on tonight. My guest, I met him a couple years ago online and through the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's, Ontario, and he is a fellow podcaster, and he also has written for the Blue Jays Journal, and he has some involvement with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame as well, and he's a huge sports fan, political fan, and tonight we're just going to stick to the sports stuff, and I'm going to bring him on right now, and his name is Brent Cardy, and he's the host of his semi-retired Cardy Show Podcast from 2014 to 2024. That's over 10 years. That is amazing, and I'm excited to bring on Brent Cardy, who's out of London, Ontario, the home of the London Knights. Hello, Brent. How you doing?
Chris, thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you so much, Brent, and I'm looking forward to seeing you this June at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's, Ontario.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You and I were on the press call this past February. It's March now, and it was interesting because you and I let it off, right? I asked the first set. You asked the second set of questions. It was a lot of fun. And that couldn't have happened without the great Scott Crawford hooking us up with that. And I'm really looking forward to this class in June in 2025. It's going to be a great time.
How did you end up getting connected with Scott Crawford and the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, Brent?
Oh, that's a great question. So back in the day when I was doing the Cardy Show, the early days, 2014, 2015, I had a guest on frequently by the name of, Ian Hunter. Ian Hunter lives in Kitchener, not too far from you. He had a website called the Blue Jays Hunter, and he's made it big now. It's I think he's writing for the website's going to come to me, the Daily Hive. He's writing for. So Ian, being from Kitchener, he's like yourself. He's not that far off from St. Mary's. And sorry, Chris, I know you're from Guelph, but so he actually said, email Scott if you want to get in, because they had a great class. I think like 15 might have been the Delgado class. So I emailed Scott, and Scott was totally cool. And Scott and I have been in contact ever since. I mean, Scott's just a great guy. As you know, you've had him on, you've talked to him. And the only thing he's ever asked of me, Chris, and I'm sure it's the same of you, just talk about the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, have fun, talk about baseball. That's the only thing he's ever asked, and look what he's given us. Opportunities, which has been very amazing.
I first went to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame way back in 1987 when it was on the C&E grounds wrapped by Exhibition Stadium, and I still have a photo of myself with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in an Expos jersey. So I said to Scott 3 years ago, I said, this Hall of Fame has changed a lot from the days of Toronto back in the 80s to St. Mary's, Ontario, which it moved to in 1994, I believe. And
Yep.
Guelph was actually the runner-up to get the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame after St. Mary's, Scott was telling me.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. It actually, what happened, Bob Barney, who is a professor at the University of Western Ontario, was a big part of that. They actually presented a case for the Hall of Fame at Jilly's restaurant, which is just honestly, it's around the corner from the hall. And this past November at the Canadian Baseball History Conference, everybody went there. Obviously, we're big fans of the New Orleans pizza there.
Yeah.
All those people went there. Well, Dave and I went to the New Orleans, but it was a great story that Bob told us about how, that deal to get the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame to St. Mary's actually happened. It wasn't Jilly's at the time. It was another name, but it's still pretty cool nonetheless.
I think they made the right decision. As much as I would have liked to seen it in Guelph, I think having it in St. Mary's, Ontario, I think that was the right decision, and it adds so much to the history of baseball. And St. Mary's might not be as big as Cooperstown or whatever, but I really think they've done a really good job with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame over the years, and maybe they'll have further expansion in the future.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I mean, that's a 32-acre site, and I encourage anybody not just to go inside the museum, walk around the grounds. It's beautiful there. I mean, when my time's all said and done, if you want to bury me there, I won't be upset. It's a beautiful place, and I love going to St. Mary's. I don't need an excuse to go. The Hall of Fame will be a lot of fun, but any time of year to go to St. Mary's is a good time for me.
Well, and being self-taught into this and just starting 5 years ago into this career, I've just reached out to people, and actually, you know how I connected with Scott Crawford? I'll share you my story. Noel Smith, who does a great job with the London Majors, terrific young broadcaster, along with Dylan Baker. I got to know them, and they've came on my show, and through Noel Smith, I ended up getting connected with Scott Crawford. So if Noel Smith is watching this show, thank you so much. And Dylan Baker, I think, is going to be the next Vin Scully because he's that good at broadcasting. And both are from London, Ontario.
Yeah, Noah and Dylan do a great job. Noah's got one of those 9-to-5 jobs like me, and Dylan, like you said, he's bilingual. He calls hockey, soccer, baseball. That guy, his future was bright. We knew that his future was bright 7 or 8 years ago when we first started talking to him. He's just a smart kid, and like you said, I would not be surprised to hear him in an NHL booth or a Blue Jays radio booth within the next 5 to 10 years. He's fantastic. He's that good.
Brent, since I have you on, I wanted to ask you, I know they've already announced the class of 2025, but when do they announce the Jack Graney Award winner for media excellence? And I'm going to be biased here. Jerry Howarth, I don't know how he's not in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame yet, and also the Blue Jays level of excellence for his 36 years, Brent.
So they usually announce it in November. This year is Dave Perkins from the Toronto Star.
Okay.
So he will be there in June. A long-time writer. He was always on Bob McCallan's podcast.
Yes.
Well, right. Good dude. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. As far as your points on Jerry Howarth, Jerry was a Jack Graney Award winner. He obviously has not been inducted into the Hall of Fame yet. He should be for sure. I did an interview back in the day with Jeff Cheek, Tom Cheek's son, and Jeff said his words were, "If my dad is in the Hall of Fame, Jerry deserves to be there too." So you can make a case. Obviously, St. Mary's, Jerry will go in when the time is right. Cooperstown, you can make a case for Cooperstown.
Yes, absolutely.
It was really unfortunate, Chris, that Mike Wilner had to work so darn hard to get Tom Cheek into the Hall of Fame to make that case. That should not have happened. Tom should have easily got there on his own, but Tom's in nonetheless. And Jerry, hopefully he'll be in Cooperstown, but for sure he will be in St. Mary's. I have no worries there.
Well, 4 years ago, when I was a rookie doing this, Brent, I reached out to Jerry Howarth, and I thought, okay, at least I went through the motions and tried. and he responded and gave me his email address, and he came on my show and gave me over an hour of his time. His wife Mary was nice enough to help him set him up on there, and I've got a little connection with him, and it was just amazing that 4 years ago, when I was still really new at this, he would come on my show. And, he's kind of been like a mentor to me, and he's giving me some advice, and just told me to keep having the passion, keep learning, keep improving, and just enjoy it. And Jerry, to me, when you think of Blue Jays baseball, obviously Tom Cheek and Jerry Howarth, and that was the golden era of radio broadcasting for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I'll quickly share my Jerry story. So Jerry was doing a book signing at the South London chapters. So obviously Jerry's like not far from my house. And I get there and, I meet Jerry, and I'm just like this flustered kid. It was like I was 8 years old all over again. And, my wife has a picture of me, and I swear my face is redder than an apple. But Jerry was so kind. He, like yourself, gave me his email. He came on my podcast, and, we email every now and then. And like you said, Chris, he was an absolute gentleman. He was very gracious with his time. I got Jerry on the phone. So, I mean, you got him on the computer, which is awesome, because back in the day, Jerry wasn't doing any of the computer stuff or the Zoom stuff. But Jerry was awesome. And he should be, and hopefully will be, on the level of excellence, but he's just not a guy for attention, right? You remember?
No, he's humble, very humble.
Very humble, right? You remember the 1992 World Series story after Winfield hits that 11th inning double. He passed the baton to Tom, which was absolutely one of the most selfless moves anybody's ever done. And obviously the Blue Jays won. Tom got to call the World Series. He's just an amazing guy, as you know.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of viewers on that are watching through Instagram right now, and one of them you might know, Ashley Cardy, and my other guest, and I've heard of her too. She follows me, and also I have another viewer. Her name is Kate Beck. She is from Niagara Falls, Ontario, and I met her through TikTok, and she does a lot of live broadcasting. So, awesome. Kate and Ashley, thank you so much, and everyone watching this live stream on audio platforms. I really appreciate this. And that's what I love about this show, Brent, is the storytelling aspect of it. And I just really enjoy having my guests on, and I really appreciate you giving us some time tonight to come on. And I wanted to ask you, what were your thoughts on the class of 2025 being introduced in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and getting a chance to speak to Jose Bautista about a week and a half ago?
Awesome. Bautista obviously I think goes without saying for a lot of people. Obviously that 2015 home run, the bat flip game, everybody talks about that. That 2010 team, right? He hits 54 home runs that year. And I plan to write about this in my book if it ever makes shelves or publishing. But that Roy Halladay trade, Chris, you remember Anthopoulos moves Halladay in the offseason before 2010 because they didn't really know what they had in Bautista. Bautista hits 10 home runs in September. They're thinking, minor league pitching gets lucky. Bautista belts 54 home runs. The team wins 86 games. Man, if they had Roy Halladay, they would have taken the East, and that drought could have ended 5 years earlier. So obviously Bautista is great. Eric Bedard was a very good pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles for a long time, and from Nepean, Ontario. And Amanda Assay, of course, she'll be the third woman in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. The sad part is she won't be here to enjoy it. She passed away very young,
age of 33,
which is sad. And
yes.
you're gonna have to forgive me because I forget the other two that are going in. I know the one was the guy who was responsible for the Expos, and there was another lady that's going in. She'll be the fourth one from Saskatchewan, I believe, and her name escapes me. It'll come to me, but it's a great class, and I'm really looking forward to going. St. Mary's is going to be busy. I encourage everybody to go out there. You and I are going to be out there, but I encourage everybody to go see Jose Bautista and these inductees get inducted. It's going to be a great time.
I'm going to be honest, Brent, when I was in my 20s, I had the passion for this, but they didn't have the technology back in the 90s. I don't know if I would have been ready to do this because I would have been like someone like Jose Batista or Jesse Barfield or John Olerud, I don't know if I would have been able to talk to them professionally. And they've been really great. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm still a newcomer, but at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, they treat everyone there as media. They treat me like Mike Wilner, and I've even had Mike Wilner do an interview with me. And I thought, okay, from his reputation, because you hear it sometimes, that he wouldn't give me the time of day. And after the one class of 2023, Brent, he waited out in his car. He saw me and he's like, Chris, you want to still do an interview? And I'm like, are you sure? And Mike goes, yeah, I'd be happy to do one. And he gave me 6 or 7 minutes of his time. So I'm really greatly appreciated of Mike Wilner too.
Yeah, Mike's a good man. He, for many of years and continues to this day, still hosts the St. Thomas Sports Spectacular, which is fundraising events for Special Olympics Elgin. Back to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Greg Hamilton's going to be there.
Yes.
Arlene Noga and Jerry Snyder, who was responsible for the Expos, coming to Montreal. So Wilner, he made Jays talk must listen to, right? After the
you
game,
have to say that. Yep.
You turn your radio on to see, who would call in and how Wilner would handle it, right? He wasn't everybody's cup of tea. I get that. But, part of me felt he was playing a character. He learned a lot, if it wasn't for Mike Wilner, I hate to say this, but Tom Cheek would not be in Cooperstown, even though Mike, like I said earlier, should not have had to go so hard to get Tom inducted. So for that, I'm definitely thankful for Mike Wilner.
I think the reason why it took a lot of work to get Tom in is because obviously Tom spent his career in Canada with the Toronto Blue Jays, which I don't think is right. And I'm hoping somebody will go to bat for Jerry Howarth. I know Jerry's a humble guy and stuff like that, but I'm hoping one day he gets in as well. And I'm hoping the Jays eventually put him on the level of excellency. And I wanted to ask you that, Brent, besides Jerry Howarth, what other Blue Jay would you like to see up in the level of excellency in the next year or two at the Rogers Center?
So we just had Jose go on. It was last year or the year before. So Jerry would definitely be one of them. I'd like to see. This is Bob Elliott. Bob was a reporter for a long time. I don't think newspaper guys get enough credit for covering the team. That's just my opinion. But at this point, Chris, I think they've covered everybody. Maybe John Olerud. Olerud was a big part of the 93 team. He kind of made the trade possible to move Fred McGriff and Tony Fernandez for Alomar and Carter. Because if Olerud doesn't do what he does, if he doesn't skip the minor leagues, they don't trade McGriff. They probably aren't winning 92. Or 93. So that's John Olerud might be a guy. Would love to see Bob Elliott get some due. He probably would, not take it, knowing Bob. But yeah, I'm going to go with John Olerud, Chris. That is a great question.
I'm going to give you an answer, and you might, I don't know if you agree with it or not, but I'm a Detroit Tigers fan, but that 85 Toronto Blue Jays team was very special, and they are still the greatest regular season team in Blue Jays history with 99 wins, and they were so close to that first World Series. They fell short to Kansas City. I would like to see the entire 85 team up on the Jays level of excellence as the drive of 85, because they're the first championship team in Blue Jays history, and that's when this franchise really became a contender, was back in the early 80s. And I really like to see the 85 Blue Jays, just the drive of 85 up on the level of excellence.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too. And that would mean our pal, Buck Martinez, would be up there as well. There's another guy who has dedicated 41 years of his life to the Toronto Blue Jays. So that might be a guy that should be on the level of excellence as well. I had the opportunity to talk to Buck last year, like you did in St. Mary's. I've had Buck previously in 2021 on my show as well. So, one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite human beings, cancer survivor. God love him. And I'd love to see Buck get his due one day as well.
down to earth just talking to him. And even Hazel May, I ran into her and
Oh,
she gave me a couple
amazing.
minutes of times. And sometimes when you meet people from TV or radio, they're not like what they are. But
Sure.
Hazel is really legitimate. And same with Buck. Buck talked to me like he knew me for 20, 30 years. And he was gracious enough to sign a baseball for my mom, who's a
No,
huge Buck
wow.
Martinez fan. It wasn't for me, and Buck personalized it for her. And I told Buck, I said that really means a lot, and she'll be really happy. And it was so great to see him there. And yeah, I'd like to see that '85 team, Jays team, be honored. And I'm hoping they do a celebration of the 40th year of that team. I know they didn't win the World Series, Brent, but to me, that was still the best regular season team in Blue Jays history.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, hopefully that happens. That'd be good, eh?
99 wins, man. And that was the first year they moved the ALCS from a best of 5 to a best of 7. So if they had done this 1 year earlier, the Jays would have been in the World Series in 84, 85 instead of the 92 team.
Yeah, it's so true. It's frustrating. You talk to Blue Jays fans to this day, they still get angry about it. They still get choked up about it. Even the '87, your Detroit Tigers and
Yeah.
Matlock took out Fernandez. People don't want to talk about the end of the 1987 season. It's still
I think as much as the 85 pained, I think the 87 one was worse because the Jays had that division in hand. And then
yeah.
that last week, they just win it. They had their worst stretch of baseball the entire year in 87. And Detroit started out 87 really poorly. I think 12-26 or something like that. And they were poor. And then the Tigers, I think by the end of June, started getting hot. But that series between the Jays and Tigers, I'm going to be honest, Brent, and I told Jerry this. I said, even if the Jays had beaten the Tigers and won that division, I don't think the Jays would have had any gas left in the tank to beat the Minnesota Twins. I call them the Twinkies, but the Minnesota Twins. I said the Tigers, I thought, just ran out of gas after they beat the Jays because they
Yeah.
played the Jays in 7 one-run games, and that was like a playoff series.
I miss the Tigers Blue Jays rivalry. I know you do too, because man, it was intense and they're just geographically so close. Right. I don't like the Tigers being in the Central. We have the Tampa Bay Rays, we have Baltimore, we have New York. Baltimore, Toronto, it's a great baseball. Same with New York and Boston. And Tampa's obviously they're getting better every year. I just wish we could have the Tigers back in the division. It just made it better.
Yeah, the rivalry has not been the same since the Tigers moved to the AL Central, and I'm hoping in a couple years, Brent, because I think there is going to be 1 or 2 new teams. I think there could be some changes with the divisions and the American League and National League. And to me, Detroit and Toronto should be in the same division, in my opinion.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I do hope there's expansion. I don't care where the expansion is. I mean, everybody says, well, it should be in Montreal. Okay, fine. I don't care where you put it. They just need 2 more teams right now. I don't understand why the NHL is the only league that is expanding. I don't get it. So hopefully that will remedy itself sooner than later.
Well, I would like to see Tampa Bay gone. I don't think you need. I just think Tampa Bay has been a failure, and even the Florida Marlins, even with their new stadium, haven't been successful. I'm hoping one day, before I die, the Montreal gets a franchise again, and I also would like to see Nashville get a team because I think Nashville's a good sports city, and I think Nashville would be a good city to host Major League Baseball. I am sad about Oakland. Oakland had such a great history of
Yeah.
success there, but unfortunately, the ownership there did the same thing that the Expos ownership did at the end, and forced the team to leave the city.
Yeah, it did. It's sad, especially when you have teams that win championships and World Series and you have so many great memories, right? From Henderson to McGuire and Canseco, and I know that's a bit controversial, but that's okay. To that amazing pitching staff, to the Moneyball era, it's sad that Oakland left, right? It's not fair. Now they're going to be playing in a minor league ballpark. Maybe they'll get more people out. I guess we'll see. Same with Tampa, by the way. They're playing their home games this year at George Steinbrenner Field because the hurricane took the roof off the Trop. So that'll be something to watch. Florida games in the summer. We'll see how the players like that, right?
And speaking of the A's, Ricky Henderson passing away much too
Mhm.
soon too. And to
Yeah,
me, when you talk about Ricky Henderson, you talk about the Oakland A's, and you'll never see somebody steal 100 plus bases again like Ricky Henderson. And I think that's one record that will never be broken is Ricky Henderson's old time stolen base record.
agreed, 100%. And that's a great point you bring up about 100 stolen bases. It will not happen, or the cumulative, the total amount that he stole. I don't think anybody will ever touch that. We were lucky enough to have Ricky play for us in Toronto in 1993 towards the back end. Wasn't the same Ricky Henderson, but, he was still good enough to help us get the job done. But yeah, he is dearly missed. Sad, sad story of him passing away for sure.
And you know what? I was looking this up the other day and I forgot about this, but you know who holds the Blue Jays team record for stolen bases? You think Devon White, Lloyd Mosby. For an individual season, 1984, Dave Collins 60 stolen bases, and that's 41 years ago, and that record still stands.
I didn't have that on my bingo card, Chris.
Dave Collins 60 stolen bases in 1984.
How about that? My buddy, my pal David Glassford, best friend of 30 years and podcast host, you guys met in St. Mary's. He just wanted to send his regards along. He's a very big fan of your work, so I just want to shout Dave out for that.
Well, thank you so much. And anyone that's watching this live stream right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, or Instagram, and you have a question about the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame or the Toronto Blue Jays or Major League Baseball, feel free to comment here and ask myself or Brent a question about baseball, because tonight's show is kind of baseball is back with spring training camp, and of course your Blue Jays won today 13-3 over my Detroit Tigers at Lakeland.
Oh, I know. Look at that Blue Jays offense. They're lighting it up so far. Different, right? I mean, they've got David Popkins from the Minnesota Twins as their hitting coach. So we'll have to see how that looks. Obviously, still a lot of unknowns for the 2025 season for the Blue Jays. What's going to happen with Vladdy? Are the contract talks done? Is Bo Bichette healthy? I mean, he's so far looked good. Have George Springer and David Schneider made adjustments? Is David Schneider good enough to make this team? I mean, who knows? Who knows? We got a question, Chris. What do you got?
Let's see. I'm just going to see if it's on Instagram. I can answer it. I don't see anything on Instagram. I know a couple people are watching us in the comments section. Go ahead, Brett. If I can't see the question.
I got it here. Thoughts on the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays, and do you feel this team can contend for a wild card playoff spot with their current roster? Well, thank you for the question. Thoughts on 2025 Blue Jays. So we talked about Vladdy a second ago. So Vladdy, I imagine it's kind of a sink or swim year for Vladdy, right? If he has a big year, he's going to get paid. If he doesn't, does he take a shorter term deal to try and get the bigger term deal? We're going to find out. The pitching has been good. Scherzer's been good so far. But Scherzer's also 40 years old. And he's healthy, yes. He's throwing 93, throwing 94. Can he be a suitable guy? Can this happen for 6 months? We'll see. All the other pitchers I don't have an issue with right now. The only guy that really concerns me is Yariel Rodriguez. But I think he'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. And we talked about Bo a second ago. Can Bo stay healthy? If Bo is healthy, he will lead the league in hits. You can write that. You can take that to Bet365 if you want to, but he has to be healthy first. And I don't know what to think about Springer. Clement at third base, I'm okay with. I think they'll be in the hunt for a third wild card spot. I like Andres Jimenez, very good defender, Chris. You've watched a lot of them with Cleveland being in the Central. Yeah, we'll see. Jeff Hoffman in the bullpen, I like that. I love that Jimmy Garcia's back. But I think Toronto can contend for a wild card spot. Let's see what happens, though. I mean, they have 20 games against teams like Atlanta, Houston, Baltimore. It's going to be interesting. A lot of unknowns in 2025, Chris.
I think the month of April is going to be huge. I think if they get off to a good start, I think that'll be great. But if they get off to a slow or really bad start, I think John Schneider will be the fall guy, because the heat Shapiro and Atkins are taking. And if this team gets off to a rough start in April, by the end of April, early May, I believe Schneider will be gone at some point.
You know what's interesting though? If I'm Rogers, why did I let a president, a general manager, and a manager, all lame ducks, by the way, walk into this season? After the 2024 season, you should have made a change, or you should have extended them, whether people like it or not.
Yep.
Why you have these guys here right now is beyond me. I don't understand. And you know this as better as I do. People were done with this team after that press conference in 2023. You know, when they pulled Barrios and Atkins said it's Schneider's fault. Schneider said it was Atkins' fault. And Shapiro had to clean everything up, right? And then 2024 happened, and it was not good. But, man, I think you're right to a point, Chris. But I could see all three guys not working for the Toronto Blue Jays by the end of the season.
As for the manager, I think that is a strong possibility. But as for Shapiro and Atkins, I don't see Rogers firing both of them in season. I think I think both of them will be there at least until the end of the year. But as for Schneider, I really think by the beginning of May, he could be gone. But this ownership is not like the original ownership of this team, and it would be nice to see. And that's how an organization, it starts from the ownership down. And I just don't know if I'm going to say this, I don't think they've done a very good job with this team, and we'll see. I do feel this team, with their talent and what they have, I do feel the Jays can win between 86 and 88 games. And I agree with you, Brent. I think they can contend for a wild card spot. It's like the Detroit Tigers too. Chris Ilitch is getting a lot of heat too, because he's not Mike Ilitch, his late father. Chris is not spending big amount of money on payroll like his late father Mike did. So there's some heat on the Tigers this year too, because they had a terrific run into the playoffs last year, and they were very close to get into the ALCS, but they still haven't signed Tarek Skudrow to a big contract, and they still haven't added another big bat. And we're going to see what happens with the Tigers, but it all starts with ownership.
It does, but here's the thing. I mean, Rogers has given this management group the most amount of money that any other management group has ever had, right? Anthopoulos didn't get this payroll. Ricciardi didn't get this payroll. So I hate to say it, but they've squandered a lot of it. It's just a lot of tough, unnecessary spending. That being said, though, Gausman, Bassett, Barrios, I think are worth their money. They take the ball every 5 days, and, you know, more often than not, they leave the team in pretty good shape, you know, in quality starts and whatnot. So I can't be mad at that money spent. Springer, obviously, that's another conversation. They gave him a little too much term and a little bit too much money from what it looks like. But, man, here's the question. Do you spend $600 million on Vladimir Guerrero Jr., knowing that in 2027 there could be a salary cap? That's hard. I don't know, Chris, if I would spend that money.
Yeah, because there was already talk by the end of 2026, like you said, of there's going to be a lockout or whatever. And I'm going to ask you this, Brent. Honestly, I know the Dodgers, they're a championship organization. They want to win, and I completely understand it. But how can teams like Detroit, Toronto, Cleveland, St. Louis, Kansas City, Pittsburgh compete? It's becoming the haves and the have-nots. It's becoming like soccer over in Europe. And to me, I really do believe baseball does need a hard salary cap. I'm not saying $50 million, but I just think some of these payrolls are getting out of hand with the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, etc.
Yeah, I think the problem is too, a lot of teams are deferring their payments, right? So it's not counting towards the year. So they're not having to pay the luxury tax. So the question that, you know, I was on a podcast the other day and I posed it as well. Do they take away the luxury tax to impose a salary cap, right? And do you have hard and fast rules saying you can't defer 600 of Ohtani's 700? You know, do you subject the team to interest penalties? Like, what do you do to discourage deferring salary? You know, because in the NHL, and I could be wrong on this, you're not deferring salary. Austin Matthews isn't deferring his contract. This whole deferring thing, I mean, the Dodgers and the Mets and even the Blue Jays are starting to partake in that with Santander. it's kind of hurting the game a bit. It does have to stop. So you need to have a fast solution to this. Else, you are going to do damage to the game. And as exciting of a player as Shohei Ohtani is, are people going to love the fact that the Dodgers are on pace to win the World Series for 4 or 5 years in a row? It's not fair. You're playing with Dodger money and everybody else seems to be playing down here, right? It's not fair. Hopefully Major League Baseball will figure it out.
I hope so as well. And personally, I like the way the NFL system does it because it's based on the revenue. The league makes more money than the salary cap goes up. But I find the NFL there's more parity in the NFL than Major League Baseball. And I'm not saying the owners aren't cheap, or the owners aren't broke by any means. They're billionaires and the players should get paid well, but there's to the point where the more these salaries go up, right? The more ticket prices go up, food goes up, parking goes up. I don't know how an average family of 4 these days can afford to go to a Major League Baseball game anymore.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, going to sports for a lot of families and a lot of friends, right, seems to be a thing of the past for a lot of people now. The Blue Jays do a good job with their $20 outfield seats. If you get there early and good time, you're guaranteed to sit. But it's hard when you spend $150 and then you got to pay the $50 for parking and the $50 for food. It adds up, man. And the gas, if you're driving there, if you're not, you're paying for the train tickets. NFL, I mean, like you said, it's crazy. Hockey, Maple Leafs tickets, good luck, right? It's insane. And, you got to save a lot of money for that. But it's weird, and this is why I love baseball, because it's the most affordable thing you can go to during the summer. Maybe an Argos game. I haven't been to one in a long time.
You should come down to an Argos game. You can get a ticket for $29, and they are the best value for your buck in Toronto. And they've won 4 Grey Cups in the last 7 years, and they do a great job. The on-field product, the off-field product, and BMO Field. If you've never been there, Brent, it's a really great stadium. And one thing I like about BMO Field is the parking lot is where the old bases are to Exhibition Stadium, so you can walk where home plate, first, second, and third were. They don't have anything for the pitching mound, but it's just nice to walk to that area because there's so much history at that site with Exhibition Stadium, the home of the Argos and the Blue Jays for many years, and the Toronto Blizzard too.
Yeah, that's right. No, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how many people come to Rogers Center this year. Economically and interest in the team. And you make a great point about the Argos. I mean, I'm trying to slowly get back into CFL. I'd like to watch more games this year, so that'll be good. And it's all about value, right? It's about what you can do and bang for your buck. So that's a great example.
And I just drive from Guelph to the Burlington GO train station. And the GO train station, I can get like a $10 day pass, $5 from the GO train in Burlington Aldershot down to BMO Field, and BMO Field's right by the GO train station, and there's a lot of pubs and restaurants around BMO Field in Liberty Village. So honestly, anyone watching out there, if you want to support Canadian or Canada, support the CFL. Come down on a Toronto Argonauts game, and they've been really good, Brant, with my media work as well. So I want to say a shout out to the Argonauts organization and Mike Pinball Clements, Hall of Fame CFL player, one of the nicest people you'll meet if you're ever happened lucky enough to meet him.
Shout out to Mike Hogan, your guy. He's one of the all-time greats too. And pinball, I loved watching pinball play with Doug Flutie and Robert Drummond in 1997. They win the Grey Cup, and like you said, I mean, they've won 4 Grey Cups, probably more since. So pretty
19-time Grey Cup champions, and they've won 8 Grey Cups in the last 40 years. So they are Toronto's most successful franchise. And the CFL, it's such a great league, and everybody's got this thing, well, it's not the NFL, but you know what? There's things about the CFL I like better than the NFL, and there's no reason why you can't enjoy both leagues.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, CFL to me seems to be a quicker game, which is nice.
It's more of a finesse game. And
Yeah.
speed's huge because of bigger fields and stuff like that. But I don't know why people don't just enjoy it. And it's professional football, and it's Canadian as well. Hey, Brent, since I got you on for a little bit longer, if you're okay for a few more questions, who
Oh
are
yeah.
some teams? Who are some teams in the American League that could surprise in 2025? And who are some teams that might take a step back this year? And do you feel the Dodgers are still the team to beat as the World Series champs?
So teams that could surprise in 2025, I want to start with the Tampa Bay Rays. They're healthy. Their pitching staff is good. They got Danny Jansen. Danny Jansen could be, if he's healthy, a very good power hitting catcher for them. Healthy pitching. So that's the team that I'm watching for in the East. Obviously, the Red Sox signed a whole bunch of players, so I imagine they'll take a step forward with Bregman and Walker Buehler. When you look at the Central, are the White Sox going to be a little bit better than last year? Because
Not much.
if they are, then maybe you're not going to have 3 playoff teams come out of the Central. Maybe you're only going to have 2. What are the Minnesota Twins going to be? That's a team that I think might be taking a step back. Cleveland, they moved Josh Naylor, but they seem to be in the playoff conversation every year, so I'm not ready to count them out yet. Detroit gets Gleyber Torres. Maybe it's not the bat that you want, but you still have Tarek Skubal. And AJ Hinch is a very good manager. So I'm not willing to write off Detroit. Kansas City still has room to improve, and they are very good last year. Teams that take a step back, Houston Astros, I think, are going to take a bit of a step back this year. How much, we'll see. I think the Mariners are going to take a step back. They didn't really do a lot in the offseason. The Angels might get a little bit better. The Rangers might flatline. I think the Sacramento Athletics will surprise some people with the signings. Luis Severino and Jose Leclerc. In the East, well, it's the Mets and the Braves and the Phillies. I don't know who takes the division, though. Maybe it's the Mets, but we'll see. I think Central will be the Cincinnati Reds. Will surprise some people with Terry Francona this year. You know how great of a manager he is. I think the Cardinals are going to finish in last place, though, and I haven't seen that in my lifetime, not for a long time anyway. And I do think the Dodgers are the team to beat, Chris. I mean, you get Sasaki, Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, Kershaw still there. There is one weakness they have, though, the left side of their infield. Max Muncy is 35, turning 36, playing third base, and they have Mookie Betts playing shortstop. I'm thinking they're trying to keep Mookie at shortstop until they can try and get Bo Bichette. And if they get Bo Bichette, then you'll see Mookie move back to the outfield. But Mookie is a great athlete, as you know. He'll be okay, but the Dodgers will be okay. But I don't know if they're going to – I still think they're going to win the World Series, but I don't think they'll win it easily. It's the left side of the infield. It's making a bunch of errors, but we'll find out. But hopefully that answers the question.
I think the Yankees are going to take a step back this year, and I think Boston is going to surprise some people out of the American League.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too.
And then the National League, the Mets I don't trust. The Phillies, they've had some great seasons, but they can't get it done in the postseason. The Atlanta Braves, I don't know. That's really tough. As for the Cincinnati Reds, Brent, I totally agree with you. I think they might be a surprise. I like Terry Francona. I think he's a very good manager. If his health holds up over 162 games schedule. But we'll see. I do agree with you on the Astros. I think they are going to take a step back, and it's going to be interesting. But I do like this playoff system because it gives more teams an opportunity than back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I think it's the perfect amount. I don't think I'd be adding a 4th or 5th or 6th wildcard team. I think we're right where we need to be.
Hey, Brent, just get some questions I prepared for you. When did you develop an interest in podcasting and media work? And what were some challenges like when you started up your own podcast show back in 2014 called The Brent Cardy Show?
All right. So I always wanted to be in radio. I loved watching TSN. I loved watching Sportsnet. I didn't go to school for it. I, did the whole work and self-taught, right? So
I can relate.
Right, exactly. So 2014, I'm playing around, the internet can record me and, we can upload it and they call it a podcast, right? So I started playing around with that. And, eventually I found my way and had some great support and help along the way from my friends, my wife, and a lot of people that listened and came on. And like I said, I just started getting into it. And, my very first guest was a man hopefully one day you'll have on your show by the name of Jesse Goldberg Strassler. He was the play-by-play voice, still is to this day, at the Lansing Lugnuts, who were an affiliate of the Jays. And everybody was just so kind and patient. Ben Wagner was on, Pat Malcaro. And it was a learning opportunity. And like yourself, you just had to work on it and get better and get more prepared and, invest in a microphone and just get comfortable with who you are. You don't always need to be so tense and serious, right? I've done in 10 years so many iterations of the podcast, right? Do we do a history podcast? Do we do a live podcast? Do we do a recorded podcast? It's just making the decision like you have of this is what I'm going to do. This is when I'm going to do it. And, we'll figure it out. We'll see what happens.
Brent, for those people that are watching this live stream or on audio and they're interested in starting up their own podcast show, what advice would you give to them, Brent?
I would tell them it is a lot of hard work, especially nowadays, social media, you're competing for everybody's attention. And this is one of the reasons I've taken a step back is because it is a lot of work, Chris. It's a lot of work to get the guest, prepare for the guest, do the homework for the guest, record, edit, and promote, and promote, and promote. It's a lot of time. And, I miss it to a point that, and like I said, I say the Cardy Show is semi-retired because I will do more episodes, yes, but I'm not going to spend all my time on social media. I just can't do it. It's a lot of work. Be prepared to work hard and try and get people's attention. That's the best piece of advice I can give you. And go on YouTube. YouTube is a great resource. It's not just for scrolling videos and stuff. You can learn how to edit audio files. You can learn how to edit video files. There's good stuff out there. You just have to go and look for it.
Absolutely. And when I started this 5 years ago, it was on Instagram Live, Chris's Corner, and I only had one guy watch me, Pat Gregor, who I met through Elite Sports Tours. Pat's now with TSN as an analyst. He kept watching me. He gave me some advice. I couldn't get guests on for a while, and then Brent, I ended up getting one guest on, and now I've had over 500 guests on in 5 years, and it is a lot of work. People think, oh, you're doing a podcast talk show from your home. That's easy. It's a lot of work. And as you see, I've got a ball cap on, but I wear about 8 or 9 different hats. And the guys that are in the traditional radio stations have producers, assistant producers, whatever to help them. But I'm like yourself, Brent, I'm a one-man crew, and it's a lot of time. And last week, I ended up doing more shows than I normally do. I ideally like to do 3 shows with 3 or 4 guests a week. And last week I had some guests, well-known guests, at the last minute contact me, and I didn't want to say no to the opportunity. So I ended up doing 6 shows in 6 days. And you know what? Sometimes I start these shows, I'm a little tired, but once I get talking to my guests, my adrenaline kicks in. But ideally, you don't want to do. Everybody's different, but my advice is just, I would say, quality over quantity. And then normally three new shows a week is about what I like doing. Ideally, if I have to do 5 or 6, then I can do it, but quality over quantity. And it is a lot of work, and people don't realize that. And also too, and I realized this when I first started, Jerry Howard mentioned it, Chuck Swirsky, Eric Smith, do your homework. And also too, I scripted everything when I first started, Brent, and Eric and Chuck told me, look, Chris, you can write points and notes down, but learn to think on your feet and have a natural conversation like we are now, like
Yep.
We're at a donut shop. And their advice really helped out. And now a lot of the times that some of the questions I prepare, I never use them because I just talk to my guests like we're at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame right now.
Yeah, no, and that's the idea. Like I said, I've done scripted stuff, I've done off the cuff stuff, I've prepared, I've not prepared. So, I've been through it all, man, and I get the whole 6 days a week thing. I mean, you're trying to book guests and you want to get views and yourself, you have sponsors. I didn't have sponsors.
That's a lot of work.
You got to answer to those sponsors. So you might want to, you're going to need to record for those guests and get those views and listens. So it's a lot of work. I get it.
And you're also going to get setbacks too. I've had a lot of great guests tell me yes, but then I've had some that have said no, or I've had some guests at the last minute kind of no show on me. And the thing my advice to Brent, if I've only had to cancel 1 or 2 shows in 5 years, I let my guests know ahead of time out of professional courtesy. I've had a couple of guests, I won't name names, where they canceled out on me, but they didn't give me much time. And that's the thing too. It goes for the guests as well, but be professional as well. And sometimes things do happen with guests that are out of their control. So you always have to have a plan B and plan C. And if I have to cancel a show, which I really haven't had to do, then I let people know ahead of time. And the word I'm looking at is just be professional either way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's some really good people out there. When I've had to cancel a show, they were nothing but kind to me. John Birdie, former Toronto Blue Jay, he was absolutely outstanding. And John came back on the Cardy Show a couple more times. He's a good dude. I still root for him to this day.
Brent, who have been some of your most, what have been, so I'm going to reward this. What have been some of your most memorable shows and guests you've had on in the years on the Cardy Show?
So many. I'm so thankful I did this. I made so many friends, so many great contacts. Two, my favorites too, Chris, I'll give it to you quickly. Buck Martinez. I'm pinching myself that I have got to talk to Buck Martinez 2 times to interview him is insane. And Paul Beeston calls me at work one day after I send an email going, he's not going to answer me. I got to work I call at my desk. I answer the phone. It says Toronto Blue Jays. I answer, I'm like, hello, is this Brent? I'm like, yeah, it's Paul Beeston. What are you doing right now? I'm like, Paul, I'm working. And I called him Mr. Beast, and he's like, no, everybody calls me Paul. And he's like, oh, so you're not doing anything. And so he came on the podcast, and that was one of my last episodes. And obviously, Mr. Beeston was fantastic. And those are my favorite too. If you asked me 10 years ago, do you think you're going to talk to Buck Martinez or Paul Beeston? I'd be like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. You're insane. Jerry Howarth, I talked to, Jeff Cheek, Devin Travis, Kevin Pillar. It's been an unbelievable run. And, even better than that, I have made so many friends, so many great contacts from yourself, to Doug Fox, Milan. There's times I got to spend so much more time with my best buddies recording this podcast. And I'm absolutely grateful that if I don't do another one, Chris, I am good. I will probably do more, but I'm totally good. I'm so thankful for the opportunities that I've been given because of the podcast over the years.
One of my favorite guests in my time is the Philly Fanatic. Tom Burgoyne, who played the Philly Fanatic, came on. He called me, and I'm thinking, I've got the Philly Fanatic calling me, or even Chuck Swirsky or Eric Smith. Like they're all memorable guests. But if I had specifically most memorable one, the Philly Fanatic, and then Tommy Edwards, the Chicago Bulls PA announcer who created the intro for Michael Jordan in 1984, came on my show. And it was like, I can't believe it. Like, I've been very, very lucky and fortunate. And I would tell this to anyone, Brent, and you could say the same thing too. Reach out to guests. If you don't reach out, you don't know. The worst thing they can do is say no. And sometimes I have guests turn me down, and then 6 months later, they see my work on social media, and they're like, yeah, we want to come on your show. So even if someone tells you no, don't take it as a failure. Just look at it as a temporary setback. And eventually, sometimes the guests will come back and change their mind and come on your show.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, you can also be like, hey, I had this guy on my show. I mean, this girl, this guy, I mean, that kind of helps too. But sometimes you're just going to have a conversation with you and the listeners sometimes, and that doesn't hurt either. I've been there, done that, got the postcard.
Yeah, the first 4 months I did this show, it was solo, and it helped me prepare because sometimes I've had a guest where they've had to leave early in the show, and the show has to go on. So it's the more you can do, the more you can learn. It just makes you better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Brent, can you tell us about being a writer for the Blue Jays Journal, and what were some of your favorite stories that you wrote?
Yeah, so I fan-sided had some openings, and I joined the Jays Journal for a couple years back during it was 2020 to 2020 to 2022. I'm pretty sure it was. I had some great editors. Shout out to Chris Henderson and Tyson Shishkowitz from the Canadian Baseball Network. And Chris is a musician touring Regina and Alberta, but they were great editors and they coached me through a lot. My expertise was on the broadcasters and some history stuff. And, I would throw in the odd current event articles. I wrote a scathing one about how the Rogers kept the radio guys at home while the team was on a road. It was just so unfair. And that was one of my ones that did very well, actually. And some of the comments were just like, get over it. It happens. And you couldn't say anything to the comments. That was my favorite part. I could say in my head, but I couldn't type it out. But yeah, no, they were great. It helped me with my writing practice, and it was a good group of guys. There was an editor switch over, and I stopped after that. I just had no interest. But I'm working on my own writing now, which is all good, and I was really thankful for the opportunity.
I've got to get back into that. I've been writing for 5 years, but I haven't been doing as much lately. So I need to get back into that because the more reps you do, the better you get. And Brent, for those people that are watching this live stream or on audio and they're looking to get into digital writing, what advice would you give to them?
Look for any open opportunities. They're going to be free opportunities, but just take them. And it's not about how much you make or how many views. It's about what you learn. How can you be better? And, if you have that learning mindset like yourself, you're going to be all right. If you can take feedback and criticism, as long, of course, if it's respectful. I mean, don't put up if it's not respectful, don't do that. But as long as it's respectful, make it work for you and take it and run with it. Most people want you to do good, believe it or not. They want what's best for you. Most people. It's not a bad world out there. Just only a little bit bad.
How much has the game of baseball evolved talent-wise in Canada, even the last decade, Brent?
It gets better year over year. Just look at the World Baseball Classic. Look at the guys that we could have in the lineup, right? Josh Naylor, Bo Naylor, Otto Lopez we could have. Julian from the Twins, hell of a second baseman. Abraham Toro, Cal Quantrill, Nick Pivetta, all those guys.
The Naylor brothers.
The Naylor brothers. Zach Pop could be a big piece in the bullpen. So, I mean, there's opportunities from coast to coast, right? It's not just all the big leaguers are coming from Vancouver. All the big leaguers are coming out of Mississauga. It's coast to coast, man. This game is growing in this country. The Blue Jays, when the Blue Jays are growing, you'll see registration going up. You see the interest going up. So the Blue Jays are doing a good job of fostering that for sure. Baseball Canada, Greg Hamilton. It's no joke why he's going to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. And the provinces are doing a good job with it too. I mean, look at the work Baseball Ontario does every year. And here's the other interesting part. There's more of those indoor facilities. So baseball is now a 12-month game, a 12-month-a-year game for a lot of young boys and girls. And I say girls because there is a women's league coming into effect, which is amazing because everybody deserves the opportunity at baseball, Chris. So we're doing all right. It's evolved, and it's going to continue to evolve in a big way, I think.
And I like the rule changes too, Brent. Being down in the minor leagues with the Buffalo Bisons, I was one of the first to see the ABS, the automatic balls and strikes, the bigger bases and stuff like that. And you know what? I like the changes to the game. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is, and I'm thank God they don't do this in the playoffs, is the ghost runner at second base. If they have to, I understand they don't want to play 19, 20 inning games, but if they got to put a ghost runner on, it should be at first base and not second base, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided on second. First base makes sense. I don't know why they decided on second, but that doesn't bother me as much as it used to. I've gotten used to that, and I can definitely get used to the ABS. The thing I found interesting in spring training is the umpires, for the most part, have got it right. The appeals, the umpires have been right. which is interesting to me. I mean, we'll see how the rest of it goes. Obviously, I'd love to see it in the big leagues in 2026. I'm down. Let's see what happens.
Finally, Brent, before we wrap up our show, what is a fun fact about Brent Cardy?
Oh man, Chris, how much time do you got? We're almost done. Fun fact about me: I love sports. I love the Toronto Blue Jays. I love the game of baseball because it's just given me so much back. You know, from the time spent with family and friends, and you know the relationships that it's given me, and the support it's given me. I just love it. And I'm a clown at times, Chris. I make people laugh at my expense. That's the other fun part. But I really appreciate talking to you, man. It was great catching up, and it's great to see you. And thank you so much. Congrats on all the success. It's so well deserved.
Well, thank you, and I still have more learning and improving to do as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you and everybody at the class of 2025. I believe on Saturday, June 14th at St. Mary's.
Saturday, June 7th in St. Mary's.
June 7th. I don't know why I had 14th.
Because usually it's the day before every Father's Day, but for this year it's not.
Okay, well, good to know. I would have been there a week after the fact.
So there you go.
But hey, well, thank you. So Saturday, June 7th, 2025, with Jose Batista headlining the class of 2025. And you're right, it's going to be a great day, and hopefully the weather will cooperate as well.
Oh, I'm not worried about that. He'll be fine.
And finally, Brent, where can my audience follow you on social media if you're still on there? And what's the best way of somebody contacting you?
Well, you can follow the Cardy Show on Instagram at the Cardy Show Podcast. Whether or not I see it is another conversation for another day. Best way of contacting me, you can, just follow me on the gram or look at Brent Cardy on LinkedIn and say hi. I might say hi back. I might not. But thank you so much again for having me. And thank you to everybody who's listened to the Cardy Show over the years. And hopefully there's more to come.
Any future talk of having another show in the next month or two?
Don't know the answer to that. All I say is stay tuned, my friend.
And before we wrap this up, do you have a question for the host?
Do I have a question for the host? Absolutely. What's your favorite part about going to St. Mary's?
Just the drive. It's just such a peaceful drive. Instead of driving into a major city with traffic, it's just it just takes you back to the roots of the game. And it does remind me a little bit about Cooperstown as well. It's just the people there in the city of the town of St. Mary's are very friendly. Everybody's down to earth, and it's just a nice little town, and it's a nice little facility. And the history of baseball in Canada is huge.
Do you got time for one more question or no?
Yeah, one more question. Yeah.
Do you feel the IBL can expand one or two more teams? And if so, where?
That's a good question. And Rod Black, who's my guest tomorrow, is part owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I might ask him this question as well. Nice. IBL, I think going to Chatham was good. I would like to see them expand to Windsor or Sarnia. I don't think Burlington has already failed. Mississauga has failed. I think the GTA area, I don't think would succeed, but I think Sarnia or Windsor would be possibilities.
Yeah, I was thinking Windsor and maybe Stratford. Only Stratford because
they have a history.
They have a history, and I mean, it's close to St. Mary's. Windsor, I mean, you're near the border. Sarnia is another great example, but there's a little bit more room there for them to expand if they want to.
The only problem I heard with Stratford is that stadium is not up to date. It would not be right now. It's not up to IBL standards.
Yeah, they'd have to get it up to IBL standards for sure. But there's a lot of money in the city of Stratford. They can make it happen.
And they have such a long history with the Stratford Hailers. And I was a bat boy for the Gulf Royals in 1985, and I met Fergie Jenkins and Rob Ducey, who went on to play for the Blue Jays, played 1 year in Guelph in 1985. And Jack and Lynn D'Amico, I met them as a bat boy, and they used to pay me money to be the Maple Leafs visiting bat boy when they were in Guelph. And back then, $5 was a big deal.
$5 is $5.
Yeah, back in 1985 for a kid, $5 was a lot of money.
That's a lunch at McDonald's.
So yes, the IBL, I'm trying to get back into it. There was kind of a couple of decades I didn't really follow the league, but since I met Noah and Dylan Baker from the London Majors, I have been following it a little more. And golf last year had a great run, and they unfortunately ran into a red hot the Barry Baycat team, and got swept. But I think the competitive of the league has improved, and with people like Rod Black in the league, I think the IBL is going to be good to continue to be successful.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think it's a growing league still too. We're seeing more former big leaguers and former minor leaguers, and some bigger name owners. So can't wait to see what happens.
Well, Brent, I want to say thank you so much for coming on my 504th show tonight and giving us an hour of your time. And I want to wish you continued success with your podcast, your writing, and look forward to seeing you on Saturday, June 7th in St. Mary's. And I'm going to make sure I get there earlier than I did last year. So I'm going to have to make sure I leave golf a bit sooner as well.
Yeah, lunch is on us, Chris, when you see us. Happy to hang out with you.
And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream or on audio. And thank you to Kate Beck, who I met through TikTok, and to Ashley Cardy for watching this show as well. And Brent, give me a little bit of time tonight. I will send you the video, the audio, and I will do about 2 or 3 real clips as well for this show as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brent. And I will give you a shout out the next time I'm in London.
All right, pal. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much. All right, guys, that concludes season 10, episode 9, overall 504 of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, be proactive about your safety on the road. Right now at Barry Cullen Chevrolet, you can get a no-charge brake inspection up to $120 instant savings on GM genuine parts, brake pads, and rotors. So right now, Barry Cullen Chevrolet, get yourself a free, no charge, free brake inspection. And if you happen to need new brakes, you can get up to $120 of instant savings again on GM genuine parts, brake pads, and rotors. More details at barrycullen.com or pop by the dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. And I've been a proud customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph for the last 25 years. Before we wrap up the show, guys, the ladies Guelph Griffins University hockey team defeated York on the weekend 2-1 to sweep that series 2-0. And the women's hockey team, the Guelph Griffins women's hockey team, is back in action now in a best-of-3 series against the Toronto Varsity Blues. And the game 1 will be Thursday night at 7:30 at the University of Guelph, Toronto, Guelph. And if you've never been to a university women's hockey game, I would highly recommend it. And I'm looking forward to being at the game this Thursday night, March 6th, 7:30, Toronto and Guelph. And the winner of this series will go to the McCall Cup, I believe, and that's for the OUA Women's Championship. So Guelph, Toronto, Thursday night, 7:30, and you can get your tickets at griffins.ca/sportshockeywomen. And you can get your tickets through griffins.ca/tickets. And the home game is Thursday, March 6th at 7:30 at the University of Guelph. griffins.ca/tickets. And the women's hockey is really competitive. I used to do camera work for Griff Vision up at the University of Guelph, and the women's hockey is quite good, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a very good series against the Toronto Varsity Blues this Thursday night. And then game 2 is in Toronto. And after the third game, it'll be back in Guelph as well. So I will put the schedule right here as well. And before we wrap up this show, guys, I get another announcement to make. The next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by barrycullen.com, is going to be Tuesday, March 4th at 7 p.m. tomorrow night with my special guest, his second appearance, Rod Black, an iconic Canadian broadcaster with TSN, CTV, and a longtime media personality, and now the play-by-play announcer with the Canadian Elite Basketball League's Scarborough Stars. And Rod's going to come on, and we're going to talk about the Four Nations Cup with Canada winning. We're going to talk about Rod's ownership involvement with the Intercounty Baseball League's Toronto Maple Leafs. And we're going to talk some CFL news with Rod and about his role as the play-by-play announcer for the CEBL's Scarborough Shooting Stars as well, and the class of the Canadian baseball class of 2025. Rod was the MC last year. He does a tremendous job as an MC. So we're going to talk to Rod a little bit about everything, and I'm excited to talk to him about his part ownership of the IBL's Toronto Maple Leafs as well, and some of the changes down there as well. And the CEBL was the league where I volunteered with 6 years ago when there was a franchise in Guelph called the Guelph Nighthawks, and I ended up doing some volunteer work, which led me to doing some camera work, and this camera work led to my podcast and my talk show. So I'm forever grateful to the CEBL for their time here in Guelph, and it led me into a new career. So the importance of volunteering. Sometimes when you volunteer, you can find a new career in volunteering as well. And speaking of volunteer, before we wrap up this show, guys, if you're looking to adopt a pet, I would highly recommend the Cambridge and District Humane Society. I've been a volunteer with the Cambridge Humane Society for about a year now, and they are located at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or you can visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals up for adoption, their profiles are on the website. And if you're looking to volunteer like me, go on cambridgehumanesociety.org and fill out a volunteer form. And they're also doing a quarterly draw, a 50-50 draw. And half the money goes to the winner, half the money goes to the Humane Society. You can get tickets through humanesociety.org and click on events. So if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society. Again, 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. 519-623-7722, extension 0. And if you want to look at a specific animal, you have to make an appointment. So please contact them through the information down there as well. Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, again, is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Please follow and hit the like notifications. You can also check out my website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. I am back on TikTok, guys. Long story there, but I'm on TikTok. I have a new page at Chris Palme. Please hit the follow notification and check out all my content on TikTok at Chris Palme. My old page was at Live with CDP, so this one is at Chris Palme. I'm back on TikTok. And one piece of advice, when you go on TikTok, stay out of the political stuff. I learned the lesson. So just stick to the content that you enjoy and like to create, and just stay out of the politics stuff, in my opinion and from my experience. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or podcasting, StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans or paid professional plans that I have. And if you're a business that does a lot of webinars or live streaming, StreamYard.com, and contact the sales department. I've been with StreamYard.com for over 4 years now, thanks to Jamie Pegley, the Philly sports guy, who recommended me to StreamYard over 4 years ago. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the audio versions on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, TuneIn, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. And please remember to hit subscribe and like as well. Finally, you can email the show at live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And I'm also on PayPal. If you'd like to help support my radio and media work, I'm on PayPal at cpame19@gmail.com. And also, I joined the Cameo family. I'm on cameo.com. If you'd like a personalized video message from yours truly, CDP, type in cameo.com, Chris Pame, and book your Cameo today as well. And before we wrap up this show, guys, I did a little advertisement today for a restaurant in Guelph, and it's called Guac Mexi Grill. It's a Canadian chain, and I'm going to play this clip right now, courtesy of my YouTube channel. And please remember to subscribe. Chris Pame, radio host of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you like to support a Canadian business and you like fresh, authentic Mexican food, check out Guac Mex Grill, located at 1005 Paisley Road here in Guelph, Ontario. Telephone number 519-821-9411. That's 519-821-9411. And their website is guacmexgrill.ca. Trust me, I'm a huge customer of Guac Mexi Grill here at 1005 Paisley Road in Guelph. If you really like good quality Mexican food, fresh and Canadian owned, check out Guac Mex Grill. That clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel, Chris Pame, Live with CDP Sports Talk. Hit the subscribe, hit the like notification, and I want to say thank you to my 557 subscribers, and I'm working hard to get to that 600 subscribers mark as well. And there's a website to my Cameo page, cameo.com/Christy Pame. And that's about it, guys. I want to say thank you to my guest tonight, Brent Cardy, for coming on here tonight. It was a pleasure getting to talk about his podcast, about his writing career with Jay's Journal, and his work with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and some of his most memorable guests in shows as well. So check out the Cardy Show, and I was a guest on there a couple months ago as well. So Brent Cardy, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet for coming on. And if you're looking to advertise your business, check out CDP Media Productions, Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show. I have listeners in 41 countries. I'm on 22 platforms, and my prices are more reasonable than traditional radio stations. So if you're looking to get advertisement, check out Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. You can email me at cpame19@gmail.com or DM me on one of my social media pages, and look forward to connecting with you and getting your business on Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. That about wraps it up tonight for episode 504 with Brent Cardy. Again, my next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, Tuesday, March 4th, 7 p.m. with Rod Black. And it's going to be a great show talking to Rod Black, who is a longtime voice of the CFL on TSN. He also was a host of the Toronto Raptor games on TSN, and he's now involved with the IBL's Toronto Maple Leafs and the CEBL's Scarborough Shooting Stars. So if you're a fan of Rod Black and you're a fan of sports, check out Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show tomorrow night, Tuesday, March 4th at 7 o'clock with Rod Black. Again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph. I hope everybody has a great night, and thank you to everyone for watching live stream and on my audio platforms. And I hope you all have a good night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.